So welcome to today's IAPC&M CPD and Business Building Masterclass. My name is Judy Kennedy and I am your host. Welcome today to Wendy Firmin Price, accredited fellow coach and award-winning author, speaker and therapist, who has a wonderful equestrian center and does amazing work with equine-assisted therapy, with which she has helped thousands of clients to a happier life. So welcome, Wendy. First, a little bit of housekeeping. Our call today will be a maximum of 1 hour, including 15 minutes Q&A. The session is recorded, so please mute yourself, but it would be lovely if you were happy to put on your video, just so that the speaker doesn't think that they're speaking to themselves. And please use the chat box for any questions and suggestions. Now, the topic today is a very important one, and I think one which holds very many of us back. I know I'm speaking personally here. We're talking about overcoming perfectionism. So I would say enough about me. Grab a pen and paper and your CPD pad, and let's get the most out of everything Wendy is sharing with us here today. Over to you, Wendy.
Thank you so much, Julie. Welcome, everybody. And I probably to blame why technology is not working. We seem to have, me and technology seem to have a bit of a mismatched relationship. So I'm probably the cause of why Facebook Live can't go. Welcome. I'm just going to see if I can share my screen. We've got the right one on. Okay, can you all see that? Yes? Yep. Okay. So my name's Wendy Firmin Price, and I have recently written the book Imperfect as I Am, and most authors will tell you that their work comes from their own life. And because perfectionism is a something that I've been caught up in for a very long time. I'm just going to see how this can. Oh, let's start the slideshow. Current slide. Okay. Oh, is that better? Yeah. And I help a lot of women, particularly, that seem to struggle in being able to find their worth without feeling they've got to be perfect. So this is me. I've actually written a couple of books. My first one was The Heart of Stable Relationships. And as I will go on to explain later, I actually work with horses to be able to help us really find out who we truly are. The Imperfect as I Am is mainly about how to break free from that prison of perfectionism. And I'm thrilled to say that in its launch week, it made #1 in several categories on Kindle. So, now, I may look clean and tidy today, but particularly coming into winter, this is probably how you'll normally find me. I'm not probably not one of those speakers that have all got those really nice, designer outfits, high heels, whatever. Me, I'm more welly boots and mud type person. So just so you know, they don't get any illusion when you come to me and expecting to see someone like that. And that's because I run these 3 centres particularly. So my first one was Holistic Horse and Pony Centre, which we have been here almost 18 years. In November is our 18th anniversary. And that specialises in helping new, nervous and novice riders find a way to become confident and capable. And then that led very much to something that I've been doing for several years, promoting holistic riding, whereas helping people overcome their fears of riding by looking at the fear that was going on in their own life. This then became more and more coaching that I then do through the Heart Centre, and that sort of focuses on helping people, particularly at the moment, that are sort of stressed, depressed, or just needing a rest. And we really help them find their peace, prosperity and purpose. I also train people to become equine assisted coaches. The Healing Hearts and Minds with horses, I'm very proud to say I've always wanted to run a charity, but the implementations of all the charity status stuff always put me off. And so I found the Community Interest Company a nice bridge between the two. And our Healing Hearts and Minds with Horses helps teenagers that are stressed, struggling, and scared feel safe, supported, and strong. And we do all of this through the healing power of horses, where horses and humans heal together. We have several horses here that have had backgrounds that are not very savoury, and we have given them a second life here, given them a chance to speak up and be who they truly want to be. And sometimes that involves them not wanting to be ridden again. And so working with the horses therapeutically is a great way that they can still contribute and feel that they have a bit of purpose as well. Some of my work has been in the Daily Mail and publications and Brooklands Radio, and I had one lady interviewed with me on BBC Radio 4, All in the Mind, a few years ago. So let's look at this. Now, I would normally just have a bit of like a house game, like bingo. So let's see how many you can get out of these. Okay, so give yourself a tick for everyone you can relate to. Finding it hard to relax. Eating disorders, so whether you overeat, undereat, or just eat rubbish food on the go. Toxic comparative thinking. Now, what do I mean by that? You know, when we think, oh, they didn't, I didn't do it as good as them, or they're so much better than me, or oh, you know, there's just all that comparing, and often comparing completely apples and pears. Not even a true comparison. Feelings of unworthiness, feeling that you don't have that ability to really stand up for what you feel you're worth, whether that's as a coach in payments, whether that's at in family, asking for your needs to be met, making everybody else feel more important than yourself. But maybe you're quick to find fault. Now, sometimes it's not always with other people, but how many of you, own up, are quick to find fault with yourselves? Okay, do something and then, oh, well, I didn't do that well enough. Oh, that wasn't perfect enough. Overcritical of mistakes. Again, beating yourself up. And again, maybe even of others, not giving permission for mistakes to be made, even either with yourself or others. And avoiding doing things, new activities, because you're afraid you're not going to be perfect at it straight away. There's like, you embrace on something new, or rather don't want to, because of fear of looking silly, or that other people can do it and you can't. This often gives rise to a lot of depression, because we're suppressing a lot of what we feel. And just need to move all the ladies. So avoid starting projects, because it's not going to be perfect enough. Oh, wrong way. And this may not be for yourselves unless you start getting so much in overwhelm that you just think, oh, what's the point? Working with a lot of teenagers here at the moment, we really find their overwhelm is huge, because hey, they're never satisfied, but also they've got this unrealistic expectation either put on them or of themselves at the moment. And that feeling nothing's ever good enough, either that you're doing or what other people or life, nothing, there's no real sense of goodness, it's all, there's always something either going wrong or not right. Or you may have a boss like this. Rigid all or nothing thinking, anxiety, never praising success, either yourself or another. And that can often really lead, perfection can lead to very much OCD behaviour. So I think if we've got a nice intimate group, I'm quite happy for everyone to just either pop in the chat or actually speak out loud. How important is being perfect to you? So just tell me, let's have a little bit of sharing. We've got a nice intimate group. Let's, you know, can anyone relate to any of those symptoms?
Well, while you collect your thoughts, I certainly can. I certainly can. And I almost ticked all the boxes. I think there were two which I didn't tick. At first I thought, no, that's not me. And then I thought, no, think about that again. When you wanted to try, kite surfing, what stopped you? Oh, yeah, but I'm not going to, everybody else is going to look at me and they're all much better at it. And I'm older and I'm not good at new things. So yes, it was very too close for comfort almost. Anybody else want to share? We are a small group. Let's just be intimate.
Yeah, let's enjoy that. Let's get to the nitty gritty.
Exactly.
Anyone else like to share? Hi, Helen, come in.
Hi. Yeah, I used to be very much like all of those things, and whilst I've worked quite hard at it, I still know that it's something that stops me from doing new things, and it's still lurking in the back of my head, however much I don't beat myself up quite so badly about mistakes. And having a family has it's helped me monitor my expectations of other people considerably. So there's been improvement in some areas, but I'm nowhere near there yet.
Yeah, and I have to confess, very much work in progress, especially as a boss. I know my staff members will say, but there is a difference. So, why is this not going? Hold on. Why has that? Sorry, my oh, there we go. So what if it could be different? What if we could start sort of valuing who we are, seeing ourselves doing really well? Because perfectionism is unrealistic, it's unattainable, but excellence, seeking excellence, that is attainable. But feel the difference in the words. If you're seeking perfection, can you feel that it almost feels there is no end? Because as we know, there is no such thing as perfectionism. And yet if you think of wanting to excel, the energy is lighter. There's still a sense of, going for something, but it's not in this unachievable, unending way. So what's stopping us take the leap to really loving ourselves, or being okay with mistakes and things? So I've come up with 2 or 3 things for the slide, but we'll also open it up for discussion later. So I think one of the first ones is there's this real fear that if we don't get perfect, if we don't get perfect results, if we haven't got the perfect home, we're going to get rejected in some way. And because that's such a primal need within us as humans, needing to have acceptance is really, really important. And so this fear that other people won't like us, if we haven't done a good job, or if we've made a mistake, we'll maybe be ridiculed with it, so therefore we're rejected in some way. And a lot of this all sort of stems back to how we were handled when we made a mistake in childhood. And if we were ridiculed then, or maybe just felt really embarrassed, or maybe some teachers shamed us. I can remember there was 4 of us in primary school, and we'd had to write out our essays, and it was a handwriting class, and my handwriting wasn't very brilliant, and nor was these other 3 girls, and we had to parade round the class showing everybody how bad our handwriting was. Now, I can still feel that embarrassment, that shame of getting something wrong or feeling I did something wrong. Now, did it change my handwriting? No, it's probably even worse out of rebellion. But, you know, just that little incident can then, you know, really influence, you know, something somebody said, something that's happened like that can really influence that fear of being rejected for making a mistake or not getting it right. And what's the antidote? Self-acceptance. Now, if you get nothing else from this seminar, this call, self-acceptance is one of the highest values to put on yourself. Because when you accept you, it won't matter whether other people do. It's most important that you value you. You accept you, all of you, not just the good bits. I like to call it the good, the bad, and the ugly. The opportunities to love and accept ourselves will keep coming up. We will find parts that we think are unacceptable, but we need all of us. We need every part. We need the parts that are, you know, the selfish bits we need, because otherwise we'll be in sacrifice. We need the angry bits, because otherwise people will push our boundaries all the time. We need our sad bits so that we know joy. We need all of ourselves, and we cannot be this unrealistic, perfect person that is always positive, that is, you know, able to be, you know, all things to all people. It's impossible. And it's unrealistic and overwhelming. And then the part of us that, you know, is trying their little heart out gets too much in overwhelm. And that's often when we go into major sabotage in some form in our life. Can anybody relate to this one, this fear of rejection? Any nods or, yeah? Do join in and ask away. So the next one, and I think this is a huge one at the moment. Now, I'm not one of those people with lots of statistics and whatever, not my bag, I'm afraid. But I do know from the numbers of people, and particularly teenagers, that are so much under pressure. I have a lot of teenagers really under pressure from parents that are trying to force their kids to make sure they've got absolutely perfect results in their school results, because they're conditioning them to, number one, if they don't get perfect results, they're not going to get a job, they're not going to be accepted. And so honestly, the amount of anxiety I see in the teenagers now. I've been working with kids and teenagers for years, and the explosion of stress and anxiety in children, and that's getting younger and younger, it to me is really worrying. We need to change what we're doing, because for children to be growing up with this level of stress that they've got to be perfect, they've got to have perfect results, otherwise they're not going to be accepted. Social media is you know, all about, you know, the perfect body, and often this gives so much rise to all the type of food issues and weight problems, whether it's too thin or too fat or whatever. And then seeing all the way that it's getting younger and younger, where people feel that their body is not perfect enough, so they go under the knife for this, that, and the other, rather than learning how to embrace, you know, who we are, or learning to even eat right. So it's, you know, there's a whole culture at the moment. I mean, can anyone relate to this one about, you know, stuff either in families, their parents or people that are pressurizing them, or teachers? Yeah. So Helen, yeah.
I mentor university students with mental health difficulties, so I see a lot of that.
Right.
Particularly students go into things like law, they're pretty much all perfectionists with an unrealistic expectation for their work.
Yeah, yeah. And it's good that we have people wanting to do well, but as I say, there is a difference between perfectionism and wanting to excel. And I think that balance, and that the cultural pressure on academia has been so high, and the competition seemingly for jobs is so high that, unless you're perfect, you're not going to get a job. Well, it's not the truth. And actually,
No.
We move away so much from who we truly are when we're just, in this treadmill. So what's the antidote to this one? Again, it's self-love. We need to love who we are. We need to love our bodies. It's along the same lines as self-acceptance, but now we're going a little bit deeper. It's having love. We're loving who we are, so that we're not causing ourselves harm through wanting to self-harm in different ways, whether that's addictions, whether it's going under the knife, whether it's overeating, overspending, or whatever. And every time we go against our truth, our true or our authentic truth, we break a piece of our heart. Every time we go and try and be perfect for someone else, rather than just being perfect for feeling good enough as we are, that part of us, there's a part of us that feels really betrayed, really let down and unloved. Because how many of you want to feel that you are loved for who you are? I know I do, but I'm not now, this is many years in the work that I do. Fortunately, now I've got to a point where I'm not as dependent on somebody else's love to feel valued and loved myself. That has made a whole difference in being able to just run my life for me. Whereas before it used to be, I used to run my life for my clients and my family and everything else and everyone around me, trying to make sure I got that love, oh, I better not say anything because they might not like it. But, what about if we don't like it? Maybe we're afraid of upsetting somebody else, but why is it okay that somebody else doesn't get upset, but we sit with that upset within? I don't feel it is okay. I think it's really important that we say, that doesn't work for me. And when we have that self-acceptance and self-love, then we are now getting much stronger within. We have a part of us that is able to stand up against other people's opinions. And challenge number 3, and again, immediately I think of this really young lad who's been with us, one of the schools that have been coming for the equine assisted learning, and he can't be more than about 10. And normally, I don't know about you, but most boys I used to know as a kid were always gun-ho and would have a go at this, that and the other, and want to be sort of very bravo and show off more. But I was really touched by this young lad who was terrified of getting on the horse. And it wasn't about so much the horse, it was, you could see this fear that he was going to fail at it was actually what was preventing him getting on. And he almost did, but as I say, that point where it kicked in, I might fail at this, therefore I'm not going to do it. I can't do it. I can't. And how many of you put off doing things? I mean, I know I'm still very much working progress with this one on some things. I still haven't got podcasts out, even though I love talking, because I'm afraid that I'm going to mess it up. I'm going to mess up technology. And so it's still sitting in the box, 6 months later after buying it. Does anyone else, not like to try new things or procrastinate on getting projects finished or even started? Have I got any other fellow friends?
No, definitely. Well, I certainly do. And indeed, it's not the fear of the thing itself. It's the fear of what other people are going to say, or that I'm going to look stupid and all of that. And I think it's something that we have, which then goes over various areas. I have that with sports, for example. I used to be very shy, and I tried kite surfing, and I wasn't scared at all. They were saying, "Gosh," but I was terrified. If there was anybody around, I would say, "Oh no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it," because I was terrified of failing in their eyes, not even in mine, which is, I find, even more worrying in a way. Thank goodness for people like you, Wendy.
Well, it's still work in progress. So what's our antidote? Well, it actually is a blend of the other two things, because when you have self-acceptance and self-love, this is where natural self-confidence will come from. Confidence isn't something that we go and get. It's not something we can nip down to the supermarket and say, well, I have a bag of confidence, please. And quite often when we are lacking in confidence, it's because it's got covered up from the belief that we're not good enough, or the belief that we might fail. Or there may even be a belief that we're actually afraid that we might succeed. That goes on as well. Or that we haven't been allowed to fail. Because I believe if you have the courage to fail, you'll have the confidence to succeed. And again, a trend I've seen over the years as a riding centre is that where there is this over risk in health and safety, that people aren't allowed to fall off a horse, or they're not allowed to get trod on by the horse's foot. There's this overprotectiveness that makes it so risk averse that children don't learn how to fail. And I think it's one of the most important things in life. We have to learn how to fail. We are going to fail. That is a given. We are going to mess up. We're going to make a mistake. And if our life is not making a mistake or messing up, then we're leading a very, very small life. Because, to grow, we need to learn how to embrace those changes, embrace those mistakes, because those mistakes are just, I like to think of them as just outtakes. They'll always give us feedback. Now, when the children come here for riding, for example, they have to spend time grooming the horse. Now, I know at other centres, the horses, stay back behind there and wait until, get on the mounting block and we'll bring this, dangerous horse to you and you can get on there. Well, I think that is what creates danger, is that they haven't had a chance to orientate themselves around the horse, be able to learn how to read the horse's body language and get spatial awareness between the two of them. So, for me, again, starting really young and allowing children to embrace those mistakes and have fun getting it wrong, that's what's going to give them confidence to really try things for life. And so turn that round onto yourselves. How can your inner children be given permission to go and make a mistake? I challenge you as a bit of home play to go and do something new, but make at least 10 mistakes. You've got to make 10 mistakes. Okay? You have to find at least 10 ways not to do something correctly. Okay? And then once we really give ourselves permission, you'll see, well, okay, it's just normal and natural to just learn how to do things differently. It's not an original, but we know that, in learning how to find the light bulb to work, it's like, 990 experiments were what he described as 999 ways they don't work. But that was just feedback for him. He didn't see it. And then, you know, was he a success or was he a failure? You know, you only had one light bulb that worked out, one experiment. But so, you know, I think it's one of the best examples of, you know, how many times sometimes you have to make a mistake in order to get that thing right or working in the way that you want. And certainly in business. And I'm sure many of us can relate to our earlier days in coaching. You think, oh gosh, did I ever say that? Or how my clients have never sued me. Well, it wasn't quite that bad, but you know, just, you know, think back to how we were when we were in the start off. Of course, it's very different to how we are now. And maybe when, you know, you have your clients come to see you, that they are given that opportunity to really embrace not getting things perfect. Does anyone relate to any of the fear of failure or success challenge that we give ourselves? Yeah, okay. Okay, so I love this statement from, I don't know how to pronounce it, Lautitz, him anyway. Perfection is the willingness to be imperfect. And I feel that is so, so true. Now, let's just stand up for a moment. Well, move it. You want to get something new into your body. Okay, right. Now shout out, I'm perfect as I am. Really nice and loud. Okay, actually, can you all unmute yourself as you say this so we can really, really embrace this? Probably can't see her. That's fine, Helen, don't worry about it. Right, unmute yourselves, everyone. Okay, on 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm perfect
as I am.
Yes.
Perfect as I am.
And now turn to those around on the other screen and point, and so are you.
And so are you.
And so are you. Okay, and anybody else in the house?
Indeed, and so are you.
Okay, now the reason to get your body moving when you want to give it something new to think about is that it will go in better than if we just overstamp. So I'm really happy for those of you who have been willing to turn up or been able to turn up to go and grab a free copy of my book. There won't be a button per se, so you'll just go to sign up on the Heart Centre, one of the boxes, and in the notes just say Imperfect as I Am book, please, and make sure you have your address because it will be a physical copy. Now I've got a little bit of extra time, so if it's okay, I'll share about how the horses can help with the coaching experience. Let's come back to that one. Oh, no, hang on. Don't know where that is. So how do horses help in coaching? Well, having a clean mirror and someone who is going to say it like it is, but without saying it, is very empowering. So often horses, supposing, so they will show up like our beliefs, our blocked emotions, behaviors or patterns that are sort of getting in the way. Horses have a very consistent way of communicating to one another, and they read energy because they're prey animals. They read energy really easily, and this allows them to be able to read us even before they see us, and particularly our emotions. Now, when we're in flow, our energy literally sort of looks in flow around us. But when we're blocked, we emanate a blocked energy. And the horses that are used to doing this work will often feel that energy and react accordingly. So, for example, we had somebody today that we're working on life purpose, and one of the obstacles was to take the horse over this little wooden bridge, and it was they were completely stuck. And what this was representing was where they were stuck in their life. You know, with perfectionism, it's one of the key ways to get procrastination, because we will not progress because we're afraid of it not getting perfect. But also, perfectionism will keep us stuck from doing what we truly want to do. And although we weren't working necessarily on perfectionism, and say we were working on life purpose, there was it was representative of everything else sort of being in the way, and causing her to get stuck. And so what we had to do was find an energy within her that represented feeling that she was able to go forward in a new energy, accepting who she was without, I think the one was without self-doubt. So she had to find that confidence. And it took, and she started saying the right words, which how many of us as coaches know our clients sometimes are giving us the right words, but they're not truly feeling it. They're sort of saying what they think we want to hear. Well, you can't do that with the horses, because they will tell when it's not really authentic. And so it took her to really feel that energy. And then when she got there, without pulling and shoving and or anything, the horse, who had been resisting for quite a while, just followed her when she got that energy. And that's an example of, when we get the right answers, the horses help to really reflect that. And so they become a very quick way of identifying what's really going on. And with horses particularly, there's no way you can do things perfectly. I always believe, I've got the right, I've got the toolkit. And then another horse would come along. I always remember Minnie, I was sort of about 20 years ago. I've really learned how to sort of master horses, and and this horse, she must have been reading my mind, because she's like, there's no way. And everything that I had ever learned about horses, she was just not going to follow that script. She obviously hadn't read my training books. And I remember, I can still feel the day when I was on my knees in tears, because I just did not know what to do. And I know, because I was beating myself up at the time, that I wasn't able to get it right. I wasn't perfect enough. I didn't know. But in that moment of surrender, that I don't know what to do, actually answers came through. I got led to some different trainers, some different philosophies. And finally, that horse has been with me over 20 years, and she is, one of our most popular horses. But it took that surrender of not, I didn't know the answer. I wasn't perfect. I didn't know how to get it right. Because when we do go into that surrender, we allow our higher selves to come in and help. And again, this is where the horses help to recognize when we are letting go of stuff. I remember we had some vulnerable adults at one time, and we had one of the students there. She didn't really want to be there. She'd only come along because the organisation thought it was going to be a good idea, and she made it quite clear that she wasn't going to get involved, and was quite stroppy, and had a lot of rage and anger, and we just allowed that to be. one of the exercises that you do is you go out and the horses are usually in during the day, and you go and meet the horses and just sort of work out who do you feel drawn to work with for that day. And one of them, this girl went through the main aisle, and none of the horses wanted to be near her. They all backed off because obviously they felt her energy. Well, this surprised her. Now, she's used to people rejecting her, but when it came to the horses, it really, really upset her. And then she goes, oh, I don't want to do this exercise, and went round the back of the stables. Well, unbeknown to her, there was this horse that was equally angry. He'd had a really rubbish background, and he was quite angry with life, and was probably one of our most difficult horses. Anyway, she was standing there, and she'd actually let go of the anger. She was actually in tears. And as she was feeling that feeling, Harry just touched her with his nose on her face. Well, that was just like a magic wand. And instantly she changed. She became animated. The two of them worked together. And like, you know, I say, Harry's not the horse I would give a first-time client to, because, you know, it's health and safety. But they were in unison, and that's often the case. A lot of abused women that come here, you know, they will go to the horses that have been abused. Kids that have had, you know, been bullied and whatever, they'll go to Smarty. They'll all be drawn to those same types of animals, and there they find that connection. And so this is how horses can be of complete benefit to assist you in your coaching, and or they certainly assist me. And yeah, so I thought I'd just share how
thank you. I mean, thank you for sharing that, because to be honest, I've often been quite curious to you know, what exactly it was, how a horse could help somebody, and what we were giving. So I'm actually very grateful that you did share that, and it is still linked to the topic of imperfection. And maybe not all of us can have access to this line of therapy or with our clients, right? But it's also very good to know of an opportunity when we can use it. Okay, I see Producer is just running off, and we are going to open for questions. First of all, I would like to say, indeed, thank you very much for this. I think you have a very wonderful way of sharing, and an awful lot of wisdom, very deep wisdom and experience, but with an awful lot of heart. I think I'm by far not the only one who could relate very much to how you demystified it a little bit. And it really makes me wonder, you know, we're all human. You know, why do we do all of this to ourselves? You know, I mean, why do we handicap ourselves with all of that, knowing that most people around us have the same? You know, it's like that's you know, public speaking thing, where I remember my first time as you know, at school, I needed to make a talk in public, and I think it was one of my aunts or something who said to me, oh, well, just, you know, imagine them all naked or on the toilet. You know, they all have we're all the same, you know, and everybody else is very grateful that they're not that person on stage. So why do we do that to ourselves? Why do we really handicap ourselves with all of these fears and this lack of self-love? And one other thing it made me very concerned about is indeed the new generation as well coming. I mean, I guess most of us now as coaches are coaching other adults, but indeed, I mean, when you look at the world around us and the amount also then corona induced, I mean, I'm in the Netherlands, an awful lot of problems with teenage suicides, depressions, lack of self-worth, self-confidence, don't socialize anymore because they believe that everybody else has made friends miraculously when everybody else was in lockdown, and that sort of thing. And also what you were saying about the overprotectiveness. I mean, there is that, they call them the helicopter mums, I think they're called, you know, obviously very smart.
Yes, they're hovering over their kids.
Exactly, who hover over their kids the whole time, don't let them make any mistakes. And we do learn from our mistakes, right? I mean, we need to make those mistakes and our own mistakes. I think as parents, lots of us would love to be able to help our children by sharing our mistakes, but the truth is they will only learn from their own mistakes. Now, are there any questions, either live, Helen, or through the chat box, if you're more comfortable with that? Go ahead, Ellen.
If it's okay for me to jump in. Yeah, I think what you've said is absolutely right. And it's important not to look for external validation all the time. That internal validation of ourselves is really important. What tips would you have for helping people learn to accept themselves? Because we all know it's a good thing, but it's quite difficult to describe how to do that. What tips would you have for self-love and self-acceptance?
Well, it comes down to being okay with, first of all, with who we are. I think helping people find their values, their truth, is really important. And because if we're trying to live under somebody else's truth or values, we will always feel we're not succeeding and we're not good enough. But as I said, I think in the second one, with family dynamics, with family paradigms and things, there can be something going on subliminally that prevents children or anyone in the family feeling good about themselves, because that's not what we do. That's not, or else, there is a competition, a sibling rivalry, or there's competition for love. And I think one of the most important things to get people to do is ask, well, what do you want? If you didn't have to worry about it being perfect, if you didn't have to worry about pleasing mum and dad, if you didn't have to worry about upsetting your teachers, or what is it you want in life, and not just even sort of children, ourselves. I think self-love can't come when we're living our life for someone else. We have to go, what do I want? And quite often, particularly if we're in a position where we've nurtured a lot of other people, and sometimes even just as coaches, if we're nurturing everybody, sometimes we can lose who we truly are because we define ourselves by who we are helping. So I think the most important tip is to go inward and think, what do I really want for my life?
So if we're talking about helping our clients here, then sorry to jut in, it's literally to take them through like a deep values elucidation, as in, what, not what do you think or what do you think other people think that you should have as values, but to really, go into adults as to what is the most important to you right now.
Yeah, so one of the exercises we have is called the white room exercise, and you give them like a blank sheet of paper, and invite them. They've got a completely empty room. What would they put in it that represents their life? What would they want to put in it now? So they just first of all eliminated everything else. What would they want to put back in that room? And that can be including of themselves. How do they want to be? That's for me is quite a powerful exercise to just people get back to a blank canvas. Right, start again. What do you want to do different?
And you make them do that in various areas of their life, as in, partners or career or where they live. I mean, all those sorts of things. So it's a very complete.
Just when particularly if they've got into overwhelm, it's like, well, okay, let's empty the room completely. Right, now pretend you haven't got the worry of money, time, talent, geographics or anything. What would you want to create? What would you want to put into this room representing your life?
Tip.
And it's a very powerful tool to help people sort of just start from a blank canvas. And it's obviously a prelude to like your vision boards, but it's even before sort of visioning what you want, it's just, right now, how do I want to be? Who do I want to be?
Yeah.
Who are, asking the great question, who are you without your role? Who are you without being mum, dad, whatever?
And as you say,
are
I think
unique.
lots of us lose that somehow on the way. You know, I mean, okay, my target group as a coach is the Fabulous After 50, which is the program that I run. And lots, for example, who are suddenly, you know, empty nesters, for example. So much of their life has been taken up either by their career or by nurturing and raising children, that at the end of the day, when the children, you know, run the coop and that you feel that you don't need to put maybe so much effort into the career anymore, there's really that question of, well, you know, am I happy? Who am I? What do I need in order to be happy? But I think that could be, you know, at all ages, really. If we're talking about adults as well, you know, that sort of thing. Well, am I at least on the right track? And what is the track? You know, in which direction does it go? And what do I need to have on it?
And along that lines, obviously with parents, as we're talking, a lot of parents worry about not being the perfect parent in other people's eyes. So I think, going back to your question, Helen, an act of self-love is to stop worrying about what other people think.
Yeah.
You know, again, it's not a Wendyism, but it's, you know, what other people think of me is none of my business. What I think of me is, and it's really, really important that we let go of feeling judged, because at the end of the day, it's only ourselves judging. And when we think we're going to be judged, it's only because really we judge ourselves.
And we judge ourselves an awful lot more harshly than anybody else ever would.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. And so what can happen is, because again, that harshness of judgment, self-judgment, is then belief, or other people are judging me. Well, I tell my teenagers, you're going to get judged, you're going to get rejected, you're going to get betrayed, you're going to get people who aren't going to like you. Let's get that done and over with. Let's stop. Let's even, you know, not even try, because usually they come in, oh, you know, so-and-so doesn't like me. Well, tough. So what? They're lost. Let's get on with it. And change that narrative that they've got to be lovable to everybody else. They haven't. They only have to like who they are. And when they like who they are, then they can learn to love and accept everything within. And I think that's the most important message.
I agree.
Do things for yourself, your own truth. And when you make it true for you, you'll make it true for them.
Does that answer your question, Helen?
Thank you, yes.
Anything else we would like to pry out of Wendy in the 2 minutes or 1 minute we've got left?
Has it gone already?
I think so,
yes.
Yeah.
That was really, really interesting. Thank you.
Thanks, Helen. Thank you for interacting as well, because it's helpful to. I'm an interactor as well. You know, I like to sort of have questions and people.
Indeed, and it's us. I mean, I feel we're grateful. Sorry, I cut you off, Helen. Go ahead.
I said I've always got questions.
Great.
Fire away if you've got one more.
No, it's been really good. Thank you.
Indeed. Helen, thank you. Oh, Helen, thank you for your questions. Wendy, thank you very much for your content. For all of those of you who will be listening to this afterwards, since I didn't manage to get the Facebook Live on, and apologies for that once more, please listen and please take note, and please, we need to take action, because I really believe that if we do what you talked about here, Wendy, and we become happier people through it, we will then be able to help other people also have that self-love, that self-acceptance. And to be honest, I really believe the world would be one hell of a nicer place if we all worked on that rather than on blaming and attacking everybody else. So thank you very much for that. Don't forget to write it in your CPC pads, right? We all think we're going to do it later and then we all totally forget about it. Keep your notes. I mean, I know I have written profusely here, and I'm looking forward to distilling it into actual things that I can use to help my clients. So thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Helen. Thank you to all of
pleasure.
Those listening.
Thank you, everybody.
I'm delighted to host this IAPC&M Masterclass. Take care, all of you. Bye-bye.
Okay.